Good evening. Welcome to our second video in Islamic financing, which is known as dual tranche structures. And here again, I am talking about Sukuk. Like I said, Islamic banking and Western banking have many similarities. But one important edge, I would say, the Western banking holding is the benchmark curves. And unfortunately, this is at a nascent stage in Islamic financing. Probably people not yet thought about that. Because without the benchmark curves, you cannot be at a stage of Western banking. So let's take a simplistic example. What is a benchmark curve? If I speak in a very simple parlance, a benchmark curve is nothing but an index which helps me to do mark to market of my positions. Now, when I say about mark to market, I'm talking about all three. Now, which includes L1, which is mark to market, which means 100% observable variables, while 0% non-observable variables. It includes L2, which is also known as level 2, which means mark to matrix, which means 99% observable variables, while minimum, I would say, 1% is the non-observable variables. And number 3 is L3, which is mark to model, which means 99% non-observable variables, 1% observable variables. I don't know how many of you had a look at the 10K. 10K means the annual report of the big banks like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, HSBC, and they're not proprietary. They are on their websites if you get a chance to do the research. But unfortunately, people never do research. You will see the banks are taking position in all three, which includes L1, mark to market, which includes L2, which means mark to matrix, which includes L3, which is mark to model. All three known as MTM. So I repeat, a benchmark curve is nothing but an index which helps you to do MTM of your positions. And that's very quintessential, not essential, quintessential. Because until otherwise, I would repeat, until otherwise, you would be able to do mark to market of your portfolio or MTM, you won't be able to move ahead. There are millions of benchmark curves we have in the world. Now, few important is the GSEC curves. There are 164 as we speak. We have around 164 GSEC curves in the world. We have OIS curves, overnight index swap curves, which cover both asset and liability positions. We have IR curves. IR means interest rate curves. Commodity curves and huge. So when I speak about benchmark curve, please don't misguide yourself that it only pertains to any specific index. Western banking having lot of benchmark curves, and many more benchmark curves are coming because of the LIBOR transition. We all understand that LIBOR is more or less phased out. Since it is more or less phased out, a new breed is coming, which is SOFR, SORA, ESTR, Saron, ONIA, and many, and their own benchmark curves. Now, when we speak about Sukuk, which is nothing but a certificate, which is nothing but a bond, it has to be linked with a benchmark curve. Has to be linked with the benchmark curve. But there is a very important concept which is coming nowadays, and unfortunately, while doing the research on the Google, I not found this, which is known as the structuring, or known as the multi-tranche structure. I know that initially I talked about dual tranche, but let me rephrase myself as a multi-tranche structure. Now, what is that? Well, let's take an example of a company, say any Dubai-based company who operates the mall. Any company. I'm not specifically naming that, but any company who operates the mall. They need a huge amount of funding. They need a huge amount of funding. We can't deny that. Now, how can you get the funding? You can have a single tranche structure, which means that mall company would be raising for 5 years. Of course, the Sharia compliant, or probably 3 years. What would if I say they would be raising for 2 different periods, which is 5 year and 10 year together? But is this dual tranche? Sorry, is this multi-tranche? Theoretically speaking, yes, but practically speaking, no. It is not multi-tranche. Now, before I continue, let me have a definition of a multi-tranche structure, which I feel that Islamic banking can adopt. Very easy, as per the compliance. The only thing is the acceptance. Now, what is that? The same Dubai mall company would be issuing 3 different periods. What is that? 5 year, 10 year, 30 year. You would be thinking that why I said 5, 10 and 30. Is there any specific reason behind that? It could be 5, 12, 15, it could be 5, 15, 25, or probably it could be anything. That why specifically I talked about 5, 10 and 30. A very relevant question. Guys, when we speak about a benchmark curve, as we speak in March 2022, fortunately or unfortunately, the world is dominant by few currencies, which includes US dollar, Great Britain pound, euro, and Chinese yuan. And I doubt whether US dollar would sustain after 2025. But we'll not talk about this here. These four currencies I talked, which is US dollar, GBP, euro, and Chinese yuan, the four leading currencies as we speak, they have their benchmark curves. And when we say they have their benchmark curves, I mean their benchmark curves are predominantly, I would repeat, evaluated on these three periods, which is 5, 10, and 30. And the difference between 5 and 10, which in our parlance is known as 10s to 5s, spread of 10 and 5, simplistically, or the difference between 30 and 10, which in our parlance is known as 30s and 10s, is very quintessential, I would say. The hedge funds, which includes big hedge funds like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, PIMCO, Vanguard, BlackRock, Blackstone, and I would say, Janus Henderson and many more, they track these 10s, 5s, they track 30s, 10s, 30s, 5s. We have another 2s and 5s. We'll speak later on that. And the figures which I talked, example 30s and 10s, which is the spread between 30 and 10, I would say, really matters. So that Dubai-based company can have the funding in three different tranches, which includes the 5s, the 10s, and 30s. Same company, same funding, three periods. But there is a catch, big catch. Is this company specifically talking about a spread? Let's take a simplistic example again. The same Dubai company wished to raise $3 billion. US dollars. Would they be giving 1 to 5 years, 1 to 10 years, 1 to 30 years? Or would they be giving 1 to 5 years, 500 million to 10 years, rest 1.5 billion to 30 years? Or would they be giving 500 million to 5 years, 500 million to, I would say, 10 years, and another 2 billion to 30 years? That's a very interesting question. Do not do the idiocy by just dividing it by 3. 1:1:1. Now, this idiocy done by many Einstein, Edisons, and Newtons in the Western banking. And they paid a heavy price of this in their bond portfolios. Sukuk is nothing different from that. Sukuk is nothing but a bond portfolio as per Sharia compliant Islamic banking finance. Plain English. But there is another catch. And that is more tough than we had just, which is known as credit spread. the credit spread you have at 5 year won't be same you have at 10 years. It won't be same you have at 30 years. The common plain logic of the life. As you reach higher side of the curve, I repeat, as you reach higher side of the curve, the credit spread grew. Oh my God. Is this hold true now? This is known as credit indexes. I did a lot of research on Google. You know that every day I do a lot of time, spare a lot of time on the Google, on the social media, which includes Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Telegram, and I would say YouTube, almost everywhere. I hardly found any Sukuk, which is a multi-tranche, multi-year structure linked with a credit index. Guys, if you are thinking that the credit indexes are very tough to handle, then I'm sorry. I'm very sorry, because they are like easily available products. Yeah, of course, I duly agree that as we speak, the credit indexes are many. Almost all leading indexes of the world have their credit indexes. And here comes the knowledge piece, which means that you need to understand that. That's very important. And this is a bit tough, I would say. Bit tough. So next time you would do a Sukuk structuring, precisely, please think about the multi-year, multi-tranche structure. And if you get some time, please think of linking with a benchmark curve. As per RIBA. I repeat, as per RIBA. The only thing we need to do is the structuring, which would end up saving a huge money for the issuer or the originator. And of course, this would have huge impacts on the SPV, which includes the special purpose vehicle. In the earlier video, I talked about the multiple types of SPV. You can refer that. This is Rahul Magan from Tranche Consulting Group. You know my personal number, which is +91 9899 242 978. I repeat, +91 9899 242 978. Alternatively, you can WhatsApp on our back office, which is +91 9818 485 155. Have a great time ahead.